The abuse and rape of children should never be accepted, normalised or ignored, as the likes of Stephen Fry and his paedophile-aligned friend Peter Tatchell, it seems, would like it to be. And as well as it being a grossly unnatural crime, inasmuch as such an atrocity goes strongly against our moral fibre, it generates very dark energy in which we all become affected, directly or indirectly. Australian comedian Jim Jeffries, who was secretly filmed saying, after goading an interviewee to say something derogative about Muslims,
if it ain't a bloody Muslim baby, it would have vomited.
No, I don't actually agree with that
shit. I'm only joking.
But that's not funny, you're talking about fucking killing kids.
No, it's not
that's crossing a line, there's a fucking line.
We'll edit this bit out, I never look bad in these interviews.
Jeffries actually defends his friend Patton Oswalt by saying that his statements were just harmless humour. But the question is, in an industry that is rife with child abuse, why is the likes of Jeffries and Rogan not speaking against the perpetrators, rather than playing down its presence in the industry as being nothing more than light entertainment? Both men have a massive platform from which they could do a genuine service to the people they entertain by advocating an in-depth investigation into the dark side of their industry, calling for prosecutions rather than advancing their careers by maintaining their silence, along with the rest of Hollywood. Who Isaac Cappy almost certainly gave his life to tell us all knew about the likes of Jeffrey Epstein's friend, Tom Hanks, with whom Patton Oswalt starred alongside in the 2017 Hollywood movie, The Circle.
Oh yeah, Tom Hanks. Tom fucking Hanks, guys. Pedophile. Called out, no response. I'm not even going to talk about Spielberg, who, by the way, Steven Spielberg is a pedophile. Yep. See how easy that was, Corey? I didn't need $10 million. I just said it. I'm not suicidal. I'm not suicidal.
There are far too many child abusers in the world of show business, and on both sides of the political spectrum, to say that it is due to liberal or conservative negligence, a futile argument that can only hinder remedy and propagate the continuation of the crime by seeking a political saviour that is never going to come. Meanwhile, it is the children that suffer the continued abuse that the majority of people find uncomfortable to hear about, and therefore seem happy for the issue to be buried, in order not to awaken in themselves the obligation to remove their heads from the sand in which it remains buried, and accept the responsibility of their existence to do all that they can to annihilate once and for all these elite paedophile rings and bring to justice those guilty of such crimes. The victims of severe institutional abuse, like Bryce Taylor and Cathy O'Brien, present the names of so many people that govern our lives and pass legislation in order to control human behaviour, no matter the infringements on our natural inalienable rights. Remember, the sale and exploitation of slaves was legal, as was the persecution of homosexuals under previous legislation. In fact, as long as it is for the interest of the corporate establishment, almost any crime is legal, be it robbery, kidnap or murder, and agents of the corporate establishments are free to defile our young for their pleasure as long as they do so discreetly and protect their partners in crime by destroying or suppressing evidence under national security. Following the revelations of not only Bryce and Cathy, but also the expose of the crimes and associates of Jimmy Savile, Jonathan King, Max Clifford, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, we now know without question that those at the heart of our country's corporate establishments, our media, monarchies, governments, churches and key industrialists, are either directly involved or implicit in the cover-up of elite paedophile rings. which tells us that, if not willfully, carrying out their part in the sinister agendas of the New World Order elite who dream of depopulating the earth, they have been compromised and blackmailed by the exploitation of their criminal perversions, or are subject to some other scandal or physical threat, be it of character or actual assassination.
In her April 2014 article, Jimmy Savile's Sex Abuse, Islington is still covering up, for The Telegraph, Eileen Fairweather told us that a reporter anonymously admitted last year that he had found Jimmy Savile on a mattress at the BBC with a little girl. She was bald, a cancer victim at Stoke Mandeville Hospital, where Savile volunteered. Savile hissed that if the reporter told anyone, his career was over. The reporter stayed silent.
In 2013, an international common law court found, based on extensive evidence, the Queen of England, the Duke of Edinburgh, the openly Jesuit Pope Francis, former British Prime Minister David Cameron, and other key figures of church and state, guilty of numerous crimes against humanity, including child rape and murder, issuing a warrant for their arrests. Not surprisingly, the corporate establishments that refuse to genuinely investigate the criminal activities of church and state have ignored the documents, with their politically influenced gangs that repeatedly fail to secure the safety of so many children, protecting the perpetrators who believe themselves to be above the law. And we know that within the corridors of power, one has to be approved by their corporate masters through one of their many secret societies to be deemed to be academically sound in order to achieve any real level of financial and or commercial success. I have on a number of occasions been accused by sleepers of being arrogant, despite my ability to present evidence to the testimonies I have given. It is widely accepted that there was indeed a Holocaust carried out by the Nazis during the 1940s, and therefore I am not challenged or called arrogant for saying, though the details may be argued and the true figures of the genocide debated, that such events actually happened and should never be allowed to happen again. However, when I stand as equally resolute against the orchestrated events of today being carried out, authored and supported by families and corporations that financed the Nazis and played a massive part in the Reich's final solution, I have been called arrogant. Despite, as I say, the evidence I present to support my statements that such people quick to attack me refuse to even acknowledge. It is not me, therefore, that is arrogant, but the sleeper, consumed by fear, terrified of their own awakening, refusing to find in themselves the moral conviction to put their own heads above the parapet out of the sand from which they currently choose to keep it submerged, to join with genuine anarchists in the fight against fascism. Or at the very least, support those of us who are willing to risk both our lives and freedoms, or what little remains, to present the research that consumes much of one's time to highlight the very real fascist threat that exists today against all our lives and futures. Again, allow me to reiterate that the terminology of the word sleeper is not intended to denote the individual necessarily as a bad person due to their present inability to acknowledge their programming and mind control, as they are no less capable of love and empathy as those of us who have begun to awaken. Their course of life may not be aligned with the same path of enlightenment as you and I, and their vocation and purpose in this life may have a positive complexity that we cannot yet realize. Remember that before opening one's own eyes, we ourselves were consumed by fear and ignorance. At the same time, we cannot condone the perpetuation of that fear-fueled ignorance, and therefore must be even more resolute in our conviction to stand by the laws of gods, and, rather than mimic established religions and persecute the unbeliever, we should do our best to live by example. Brainwashing is most probably a term coined by the CIA around the same time that they were working on the MK Ultra Monarch mind control programs that Bryce Taylor, Cathy O'Brien and others would later be made victim to. It is officially claimed to originate from the pen of investigative journalist Edward Hunter in 1951, following the publication of his book Brainwashing in Red China, The Calculated Destruction of Men's Minds, in which he describes the results of what the Chinese regarded as thought reform. When one delves into the Cold War, which was technically the continuation of World War II, we see how implicit the CIA were in experiments on both sides, which I do not have time to delve into in this book, but it is important to grasp the relevance of brainwashing and what Edward Hunter defined as thought reform, and its presence being clearly seen today. As our corporate establishments, so-called experts, are trying to convince us that our immune systems and non-patented cures from nature do not compare with the potency of their patented for-profit drugs and vaccines, around 40% of which are said to be carcinogenic. What the world is being subjected to today is nothing more than psychological terrorism. The corporate mainstream media's British Broadcasting Corporation, the BBC, that should be world famous for not only the regurgitation of the corporate narrative, but more importantly for the paedophile ring it protected when Jimmy Savile and others were knowingly active, reported 2 members of a politically influenced gang, police, having stopped 2 women for breaking the corporate-imposed Crown or Corona rules by not imprisoning themselves in their homes during the lockdown, or as the pigs put it, breaking the spirit of government guidance. If, by this point, the reader should be one of the people still willing to overlook the elite paedophile rings and the involvement of their corporate establishments, as well as their historical alignment with documented Nazis, communists and fascists, merely because their television programming has not verified my words, believing instead that what I say is invalid because I have relied on my own education rather than the one endorsed by documented criminals with unlimited funding. Accepting their hidden promise to alleviate all and any responsibility one has to the universal, natural, common sense laws pertaining to all men and women when it challenges the dictate of corporatism, be that through the lies of politics or religion, then that person certainly qualifies as a true conspiracy theorist wearing the metaphoric tinfoil hat, which, I'm sorry to tell such a person, will not protect them from the dark energies that they manifest with their uncultivated blind obedience. And it will be at their feet that the blame for the deaths and untold miseries cast upon the earth that I and many others have warned of for many years prior to 2020 may well take place.
The more people in society that get vaccinated, the more chance there is of eradicating the national COVID pandemic. It's really important to know that the vaccines have all been through and met the necessary safety and quality standards.
So this is the bit where you're going to have the vaccine now, Elton. So
Right.
just kind of pretend that you're having the vaccine from a nurse.
Oh,
What was that, Elton?
that was me acting. And as you can see, I'm still standing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If one still believes that their corporate establishment all of a sudden care, despite their plandemic having been proven by scores of doctors, medical professionals and scientists to be a well-orchestrated false flag, with the voices of those experts having been continually suppressed, their lives threatened and their careers destroyed, for presenting an opposing argument to the mainstream narrative, with its intended platform manufactured for the creation of a new world following the agendists' promise of a great reset, all down to a virus shown to be no more deadlier than the annual flu, that itself may attribute its fatalities more to patented for-profit pharmaceuticals and unhealthy living than the failings of the natural defences of the body's immune system, then that person is also likely to struggle in finding true meaning to their existence.
Lance D. Johnson, writing for Humans of Free.com, told us in January 2021 that Moderna have admitted mRNA jabs are an operating system designed to program humans. The experimental injections, being rolled out by Moderna and Pfizer, are nothing similar to traditional vaccines, and are an operating system designed to program human beings and turn their cells into efficient drug delivery systems, enslaving human beings to a controlling system that healthy immune systems are a threat to. The immune system may attack the program and its RNA fragments, leading to negative outcomes that could include molecular deficiencies and hormone defects, etc. The body may turn on its own cells in the process, causing hyper-inflammatory responses and autoimmune issues that are a precursor to organ failure and various disease processes. It is not the injected technology that is causing allergic reactions, seizures, infertility and death, claim the drug companies. It's the individual's human immune system that is causing all the pain and misery, they demand. The new mRNA vaccines are dependency programs, designed to manipulate and enslave human biological functions. They have even dubbed their mRNA platform, the software of life. On both a psychological and physiological level, human beings are being branded like cattle. The system is not medicine, nor is it vaccination. The system is complete cellular manipulation, using foreign biological molecules to code, decode, regulate, change the expression of, and alter the physiological instructions within human beings.
You should know that Moderna was founded by a person from Harvard, Derek Rossi, and this researcher actually was successful in taking some modified RNA and being able to reprogram a stem cell in the body and change the function of the stem cell. He actually made it genetically modified, okay? So they founded the company Moderna on this concept. It's kind of a new kid on the block, okay? It's not been around that long. In fact, it hasn't even made any vaccine for a human before. It's made no medicine for a human before. This will be their first run. Like the other companies, it's fast tracking the vaccine. It's going from phase 1 to phase 2 very, very quickly. In fact, it's gone from phase 1 to phase 3 in its experiments from March of this year until currently. It usually takes 5 or 6 years. How are they able to do this with the safety and efficacy data that we need? And with the high dose vaccine group, they got 100% of those people got systemic side effects. 100. That's only in the short side effect profile. In the low dose vaccine, 80% got systemic side effects. Now, we don't even know the long-term side effects from that. We would need a lot longer time, right? Maybe years. But we do know, based on previous animal studies of using this technology, that you can expect possibly increased cancer rates, increased mutant genes, mutagenesis, also increased autoimmune reactions. For instance, in some of the ferret studies, they saw that when the ferret was introduced to the virus that they were trying to protect the ferret from after the ferret got the vaccine, they actually had an exaggerated immune response. It actually hurt the ferret. They had more lung inflammation, more lung fluid, even some problems with their liver. It actually hurt them. They had a poorer response. Okay, so those are longer term reactions, and that could be seen with this vaccine, but we don't know the data yet.
There is a common trend of everything becoming genetically modified: plants, meat, and even our bodies. Images of a barcode on the back of the neck seem more realistic and not so distant now, as we move closer to becoming a patented for profit product ourselves. And if one still believes that we stand shoulder to shoulder against Corona, albeit 2 meters apart, united by nothing more than ignorance, then their governo mentis is successful, and the electorate got exactly what they voted for.